Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today we're talking about this movie was actually really good. I mean, not that I expected it not to be, I just really wasn't sure what I was going to get going in. I didn't have that many ideas about the film since it had been so long since I had seen the cartoon. I had never read the book, and I'm not usually too impressed by graphics heavy movies. I feel that they usually then rely too much on the graphics themselves, but this was actually really good. It was directed by Jon Favreau, who we've all definitely seen before, and he has probably directed a lot of movies that you've seen and enjoyed. He did Elf, Zathura, the first two Iron Man movies, Cowboys and Aliens, and uh, personally one of my recent favorite movies, Chef. Definitely see that. I'll probably end up talking about it at some point down the road, but today we're talking about The Jungle Book. Jon Favreau has also acted in a lot of these movies. He did do a voice in The Jungle Book, even. So, knowing all that, it doesn't really come as a surprise all the good things that stood out in this film because it was made by somebody who is very familiar with the ins and outs of filmmaking and being on both sides of the camera. Now, as I said, I'm not too crazy about graphics-heavy movies, and this was pretty much an entirely green screen. Actually, it was an entirely green screen film. I enjoyed watching it. The animals looked amazing. I loved just watching them move. I mean, they did do an incredible job. There is no doubt about that. The sceneries all looked amazing. The there's the scene with the buffalo, and there's a landslide, and it looked. I've never seen a landslide, but if I ever saw a landslide, I'd probably be able to compare it pretty well to what I saw. Everything just was very, like I said, beautiful and very well detailed. Kaa the snake, for example, in the original cartoon, he has, a trick with the eyes that he uses to hypnotize Mowgli. And they did carry that over into this film, but they did it in a not... They did it in a very good way. It was very subtle, and so it didn't creep out as a point of, wow, this really doesn't fit, it doesn't belong here, but they put it in seamlessly. It was very cool. My only complaint with Kaa is that she, in this film, was only there for a short scene, and you didn't really get a scope of her size, which they sort of led up to by showing her snake skin and sort of vaguely showing her wrapped over tree limbs, and it just would have been awesome to get sort of a better idea of how that looked. Now, not just graphically, but also audibly. The film was really cool. A lot of atmospheric sounds. The voices I was mostly impressed with. Idris Elba as Shere Khan. It took a while to grow on me. When I first heard it, it didn't seem to fit very well, but over the film I got used to it. I'm still not totally confident, and it's not an issue with his performance. Something about it just, I don't know, didn't work for me personally. But throughout the movie, I got used to it. Now, Baloo the Bear, on the other hand, was voiced by Bill Murray, and at no point during the film did I think that that voice fit the character. Now, maybe as far as his easygoing, laid-back nature, Bill Murray was able to pull it off. Again, it's not their performances. We know that Idris Elba, and especially Bill Murray, can put on a fantastic performance, whether you see them or they're just speaking. It's just, when you see that voice coming out of the bear, it just, at no point during the film did it ever work for me, or was it ever believable. King Louie is another one, and they actually, I feel, made a really fantastic direction with King Louie in the film. They deviated from him simply being an and orangutan and made him gigantic. And I think he even refers to himself as a giganticus, or something along those lines. And so they made him huge, and it really added to the sort of fantastic spirit of the film. And it was a fantastic move. It was voiced by Christopher Walken, and they made King Louie very much in Walken's likeness. And there's a bunch of monkeys, and they're in the temple, and it all looked very authentic. It looked incredible. Although, I do have to say, still talking about King Louie, they left, if you've ever seen the original film, he has a song, I Want to Be Like You. And in an animated film where the mood is different in the animated film, and it's much more lighthearted, whereas this takes a much more real, slightly darker than just by proxy feeling. And King Louie sort of breaks out into his I Want to Be Like You song right after telling Mowgli, I want you to join us so that we can harness the power of the red fire, and then goes into the song about that, and the song does not fit. The song does not fit at all. I understand, I guess. Actually, no, I don't understand why they left it in. I think that was just a bad move. You've changed the film. Again, like you said, you've changed the mood of the film. You've made it more real. Though it still has fantastic elements, leaving the songs out would not have hurt the film in any way, because when they're very singular moments, and they stick out. It's not like a seamless sort of stream of events to go from one thing that's sort of very real and intense, and you're not sure what's going to happen next, to a jovial song. So they could have left that out, not just because of that, but also because it wasn't very good. Christopher Walken, I know he does stage acting, I know he does musicals, but this was not, it just wasn't good. He's saying, I want to be like you, and then there's these pauses between the, like, ooh, 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 and it took me further out of the movie and the scene, because like I said, immediately I felt the song was out of place. They also left in Bare Necessities, which I could give more of a pass on, because it's during like a montage, but it still would have been better left out. Even the events leading up to the song kind of show a pretty weak story event. Baloo is asking, Baloo starts singing the Bare Necessities sort of to himself, and Mowgli asks about it, and he's like, oh, it's a song, everybody has a song, don't you have a song? And it's not that Mowgli's grown up under a rock. He's lived in and around the jungle. If animals were just singing songs all the time, he surely would have heard one by now. So it's just really odd, and again, out of place, would have been better without it. Mowgli himself was not that annoying. I mean, I have no specific complaints about his acting or the character. It's just one of those child actor things, I guess, where it's sort of inescapable, depending on, partly I guess because he did have to interact with unreal objects, in the sense that he wasn't actually interacting with, talking animals, which I'm sure just sort of affected his performance, on top of the fact that he is so young. So, again, it was nothing specifically that he did that I found sort of like, meh. It's just kind of the circumstances. And apart from that, I noticed a small, like, graphical error. There's a point where he's talking to King Louie, and King Louie scatters a bunch of treasure that he's surrounded by. And then when the shot goes back to Mowgli staring up at him, everything that was there before is unchanged. Uh, but I mean, I this was a really solid film. There's just things that I just didn't really like about it. There weren't that many things that were actually just flat out bad or done poorly. So, Jungle Book is an easy 7 out of 10, I'm happy to say. Um, ooh, ooh, ooh.